Okay, I'll just show you what I did as it was not recorded. Uh, so what I did was here I modified the column, this one. Change the data type of this column from varchar 25 to varchar 35 using this SQL statement, right? Then we verified using that one show create command. Now we can see that it has been changed to varchar 35. And if we attempt to change this column or modify this column to a different data type, it will not allow because the already existing data, the domain constraint will be violated. So the SQL makes sure that none of the specified constraints are violated in either addition, delete, update, or any SQL operation. Data constraints, or in other term, schema-based constraints are not violated. SQL will make sure that if we attempt to do so, it will prevent from doing that one, right? Okay, so then next, what we are going to do is we are asked to drop the or delete the primary key. So for that one, the keyword is drop. So we drop the primary key like this one, right? Then we are asked to obtain a unique constraint for the employee ID. So for that one, so if you now see the table definition, so now you can see that there is no foreign key for this table. Only the primary, sorry, there is no primary key for this table. There is only foreign key. So now we are asked to add a unique constraint to employee ID. That means unique constraint is given for key attributes. So we are asked to add a key attribute. That means make this employee ID a key attribute, just as we learned in lectures. So how to do that one? This again alter table command, table employee. Now previously we dropped constraint. Now we are going to add constraint. Add constraint. We cannot add constraint without a constraint name. So I'll give this one's constraint name as just give a name that you like. I'll say UNI1 because to represent unique constraint 1. You can give any name here. Add constraint. Then we have to specify, we are going to give a unique key constraint. This is the constraint, unique key. Then we have to give the attribute name. What will be unique? We are going to make employee ID unique. So all the table employee at constraint. This is the constraint name. This is the constraint. Okay, the query ran successfully. So if we see the table definition now, you can see the constraint unique key with name uni1 for the attribute employee ID has been added, right? So not only that, we are asked to create a new primary key from a collection of attributes, employee ID and designation. So this is employee ID is now a key. So a key combined with a non-prime attribute the lesson last week. A key combined with a non-prime attribute will form a super key. A super key, a key is a subset of super key. Using a key, you can combine with a non-prime attribute and form a super key. So a super key can also be declared as a primary key because super key has distinct tuples for each and every row. There are distinct entries. So super key is formed by combining a key with another attribute. As the key is unique, the super key will also will have unique values for each and every tuple of the table. So we are going to form a super key and form a primary key. So just like before, all the table employee, again we are going to add constraint. As it is the primary key constraint, we are not going to give a name for that one. At constraint, we are just going to say at constraint primary key, then the super key. So super key is formed by this unique, this key declared with unique key property, and then designation, which is a non-prime attribute to form the super key. Okay, trans successful. So we'll inspect whether it was created. So you can see here now, primary key, employee ID, designation. Primary key has been formed by combination of these two. So for each and every row of this table, these two combinations should be unique. That's the meaning of this one. So we use at constraint primary key, then the attributes from in the primary key. That's how you drop constraints. That means delete constraints and add constraints even after you have created the table. If you want to change your table definition later based on different requirements, because the data requirements and functional requirements can change over time. They can be changed. So later, if you feel that one like changing the columns and attributes and drop and add constraints, you must use the old table command. Okay. So at last we are asked to delete this column from table. So if you see all tuples from this table, you can see there is a column known as experience. So we are asked to delete this whole column. So for that one also we can use alter table employee. Then, so for deleting, you can use the keyword drop column experience. Drop column experience. Then this column will be deleted. Right? So now if you visualize the table, you no longer can see this experience column because we dropped the column or deleted the column. Okay, so we modified a table structure. So that is how we modify the table structure. Then that is schema modification, right? Now will be going for data modification. That means inside data of a given table, how we are going to change, delete, or update the data of a given table. Right, I will demonstrate using these things. So first we are asked to delete all tuples which the department ID is not EIE. So if you look at the table, so it is like this. It's like this full table, this one, right? Uh, so we are asked to delete all tuples which department ID is not EI. That means we are asked to keep only these three and delete all other rows. All other rows. You cannot do that using alt because alt is for schema change. No? Schema change. This is, we are going to delete now the tuples. Tuples means rows. Rows contain data. So to change data, you cannot use alt. For that one, there are several keywords, either insert, update, or delete. Those are the three operations: insert, update, or delete. Right? So now in the first one, we are asked to delete all the tuples except these three. We are asked to delete all the tuples except these three. So as this is the unique key, as this is, I mean, the unique employee ID is the unique one. So we can identify these three from others using employee ID. Using this employee ID. This one. Or in other terms, we can use this department ID to identify these tuples, these three, because EI is common to these three. We can delete all rows which department ID is not equal to EI. So we have to convert it into a SQL statement. So as I told you, the keyword for deleting data is delete. Delete. Delete does not go alone itself. Delete from. Always it goes for delete from. Just like it was insert into. Insert does not come alone. Insert into the table name, the attributes, then values. That is the format of inserting. For deleting, delete from. Delete from, then the table name. Delete from employee, this table name. Then we have to use a special keyword known as where. So this is to specify the condition. After where, you specify the deleting condition. Not only for deleting, any other operation, select operation, insert operation, update operation, anything. This keyword where is used to specify the condition of this operation. I mean the condition of the previous operation. After where you specify the condition. What is the condition? Condition is department ID, not EI. Where department ID is not equal to this exclamation mark with equal. Is this represent not equal to EI. It is a character, so we have to string type, data type. So we have to specify within single quotes and then end with semicolon. So delete from this table which satisfy this condition. So all tuples from the table which satisfy this condition will be deleted. What are the tuples satisfying this condition? Department ID not equal EI is these three tuples and these two tuples. So they will be deleted from the table. Okay, it says 5 rows are deleted. That means those 5 rows have been deleted. So we'll just to make sure. So you can see that other rows are no longer there. Only the rows which were not deleted are now existing. Okay, in the next one, I must have put this one in the previous slide, but I have put in this one. We also set the default constraint in column join time to null. So we join time, the default is this one. We also change it to null. So we by mistake, I already did at this at the beginning of the lecture. So that is alter table employee. So we asked to change the constraint. So in that case, we must use not change, not modify, but alter. Alter column join time set default null. Now this one's default is null. If you visualize the create table, so you can see join time default is set to null. Right. So this is from the previous section. I have mistakenly put it here. That is not related to data modification. Right. Okay. So the next thing. So we are asked to insert a new employee into the table who has employee ID CE008, department ID CEE. That means this one, CEE, and designation lecturer. Only these three we are asked to enter. We are asked to enter a new value, new tuple with these three. So how to enter a new tuple into a table? We have already done this one in last week also. Just like I'll remind it here, insert into. Just like it is delete from, it is insert into. Insert into table name, employee. Then the attributes that we are going to insert. What are the attributes we are going to insert for this attribute? Then this attribute, then designation, values, the values that we enter for these attributes. This one is CE008. Next one is CEE. Next one is lecturer. So it has been successfully added. So now we will see the default or null values for these things exist. like this. We'll see select star. So we can see this is the tuple that we added. This is the tuple that we added. We only added CE008 CEE here CE008 CEE and lecturer. All other values have been automatically inserted. So this is default value. This one's default we set to null a moment ago. In here, we set the join time default to null. Previously it was this one. Previously it was this one. But those things will not be affected. Those things will not be affected. But the new constraint will be affected to new data which is inserted. That is for default constraint, but you cannot do that for data constraints. Domain constraint. The domain constraint, that means the data type, affect for even existing data. You cannot change the data type by violating the existing data. But for the default constraint, the existing data is not considered. That's why still this is 0. Only the new data will have null value, and others are default. Okay, so insert command we also did in last week. Just I here reminded. So it is used for data to do some change to existing data. That means insert new data. Okay, at last we are asked to update all other values of this table like given here. So here you can see this one has been changed to from 25 to 27. This one has been changed. This has been changed. This has been changed. So how we are going to change the data in a table? For that one, we have a keyword known as update. Update is used alone, not like insert into or delete from. Update is single. That means update, then table name. That's how we update data in a table. Update employee. Then we have to change each and every one of this data. So we have to do that one tuple wise, row by row. So first we have to select this row and change these data to these values. Then we have to go to the next row and change this one to this one. Then we have to go for this row and change this one to this. And this row is unaffected. This is not changed. So we have to change 3 rows. 3 rows we have to change into these values. We have to change into these values. Okay. So the keyword is update table name. Then we have to specify what we are going to update. We have to say set. This is what we are changing, right? Set age 27. Set age equal 27. Then in a comma separated list, we can specify the other attributes that we are going to update. So the join date is this one. We are going to change into this one. existing one is this one. Existing one is this one. We are going to change it to this one. Then this is not change. This is not change. So we don't want to change it. This is change. So security code equal this one 0111100. Okay, so we update this table and set these values. So we have to specify to which tuple that we are going to do, because this age, join date, so they are there for all the rows, all the tuples of this table. So we have to specify for which row or rows, whether we are going to do this for whole table. So if we don't specify a condition, then this will be changed for whole table. If any constraints are not violated, this command will change every tuple. So we have to specify the condition. So condition, like I said before, condition is specified after where keyword. Where so how a tuple is uniquely identified using a key. So this is the key of uh, this table. Employee ID is the key because it is unique to each and every other attribute. So we use this unique property of this key to identify a given tuple. So if we say where employee ID equal EE001, then this is the condition. We have to do all these thing, that means this operation, where this condition is true. This condition is true only in the first tuple. In other tuple, this condition is not true. So the first tuple is selected, and these attributes will be updated. That means age will be set for 27, then join date will be set to this one, security code will be set to this one, like that. So query successfully affected. So we can visualize that one like here. So EE001, age has been set to 27, join date has been changed to this one, and security code has been changed to this one. So we have to repeat that operation for other two remaining tuples also. So we can use the arrow keys and navigate, but I'll write it from the beginning. So update employee. So now I'm going to update the second, this row, E002. Update employee, set age 39, join date this one, and here we have to change the join time. Join time this one. Join time 30, and then at last security code. Security code equal this one. And then we have to specify at last the condition which this operation is done. This should be done for this row. So this row is identified this employee ID being equal to EE002. Yeah, EMPL ID equal EE002. Okay, it was run, and you can see now it has been changed to the values that we specified. So now the third one I'm not going to do, it is the same. So you can do this one as a homework. You can update the values just like that one. So now we have come up to the end of database data modification and schema modification. So those are the things that you should know about the database schema modification and data modification. Later on, we will populate. So this is how the database is populated. You can do this for multiple tables and populate the database. You can define constraints, define data types, define columns, drop columns, add constraints, then add data, update data, delete data. So later on, we will use database retrieval. That means how to retrieve this data from the database effectively by doing joining the tables, how to combine data from one table into other things. Those things we will discuss later. So now we have finished the implementation of a relation or relational database. This is how you implement a relational database. So now in the lectures, we were discussing about data dependencies. So in data dependencies, I discussed about several dependencies. The first one was the functional dependency. Second one was the transitive dependency. The third one was the multi-valued dependency. So based on these dependencies, there are database normalization forms. That means normal forms. So we'll start the normalization now, and I will demonstrate the requirement for normalization by using data anomalies in a moment, right? So we will start the section on normalization now. So the topic is normalization. So the background was provided last week by discussing about the data constraints, functional dependencies, transitive and multi-valued dependencies. So we'll now discuss what is known as these constraint violations. So as you saw in the SQL also, we one time we tried to change the domain of a given column. It did not allow. Means domain can be changed so that the already existing data is not affected. But if you try to change it to a different domain, like that means trying to convert change from string to integer, then it will not allow, because then it will violate the domain constraint. So in a database, those schema-based constraints. So what were the schema-based constraints? Domain constraint, integrity constraint, that means the primary key cannot be null. And key constraints, if there are multiple keys, they should be declared with unique property. And constraints on null, whether the table allows null constraints or not. And the next, foreign key constraint, whether the attribute refers to a foreign primary key. That means a primary key in another table. In such case, if that is deleting, if the foreign key is deleted, then what will happen? If the foreign key is updated, what will happen? So those things are schema-based constraint and data constraints we discussed last week. So the database should not violate any of these. So in data, you just a moment you saw that there are three operations in data, that is either inserting a data into relation, update, just a moment ago you did, you updated data using update, and using the delete from command, you deleted the tuples or data in a table. But during these operations, some constraints could be violated. So what are those constraints which can be violated in these operations? So we'll take a look at that. So in insert operation, almost all the schema based. So these are the schema based constraints that I mentioned a moment ago. So all these things can be violated. So how the domain constraint violated? I already showed you. So I'll demonstrate each and every one to you. So if you try to, so domain constraint, I'll demonstrate that one also. So if you try to insert into this one, insert into, I'll take the other table as example, select, start from head. So head table, this one is having a string and this one is having a string, right? So in this table, if you try to insert into head, department ID, this one, department head values. So for the first one, if I enter something like one, maybe this is because of this is a character, this may allow. We'll see. Sorry. Yes, it allowed. It allowed. The reason is because these numbers have been not inserted as integers or any other number, but they have been inserted as string. So in here, I will not be able to demonstrate the domain constraint. So I'll take the other table as example. So in here, if I try to insert for this one, for age, if I try to insert a string, we'll see what happens. So insert into employee. I'm going to insert into these things, employee ID, department ID, and age. Values For the employee ID, I will say it is as MM001. And for the department ID, I will say MME. And for age, I will specify a character. 25. We'll see whether we will be allowed. This here, this is not having a default value, so we have to enter into that one also. So designation also we have to enter. So that is another constraint which was violated now here. So there is no default value assigned for this one. So we have to specify a value. That means this is set as not null. This is set as not null. We cannot keep this one null. So that is how a constraint, this null constraint is violated. Constraints on null. So I no longer need to demonstrate it. It was automatically demonstrated. So this is what happens. So this, if you look at the show create table, you will see that this column has been defined as designation, this data type, then default, not null, not null. So that means you cannot keep this one null. If you try to keep, then the SQL will automatically will not allow us to keep it null. It will show an error message, right? So in insert operation, such constraint violations can occur, but SQL does not allow schema-based constraint to violate in all insert, update, and delete operations. That is what I wanted to show you. So, okay, I will keep on demonstrating this one. So I'll put the designation as lecturer. Yes, it will show an error message, incorrect integer value, because this age is declared as an integer, but you try to insert a character or a string value. It will not allow. So domain constraint is not allowed to be violated. Okay, now we will see about the key constraint. Key constraint. So key constraint specifies that if there are candidate keys, they should be declared with unique property. So if you see the show create table employee, you will see that you must remember that this employee ID was created with unique property. So we'll see whether the key constraint is allowed to be violated in SQL. So for that one, I will take the example as update. So just to look at what data is in this one, I will use this to visualize the data. I'll try to edit this one. I'll try to make EE003 to EE002. Then both of these will have same value. But key constraint specifies that this employee ID is unique. We'll see whether we will be allowed to violate that constraint or not. So I'll say update employee where, sorry, set, we have to set set empl id is equal to EE002. I'm going to make this E002 where empl id is equal to E003, where employee ID 003 means this row, and we are going to set employee ID to E002. But you can see that it will violate the key constraint. So it says duplicate entry for key, this one. So it is not allowing us to have duplicate for unique values. So SQL will make sure that we are not allowed to violate key constraint. Okay. So how about the referential integrity constraint? So if you look at here, there is a foreign key referring from this table's department ID to the head table's department ID, and we are asked or if the entry in the head table is deleted, the values in this table, that means these values will be set to null. That means those values deleted will be set to null here. And if the entry of the head table is updated, then such entries which are here will be cascaded. That means deleted. The whole row will be deleted. Whole row will be deleted. Right? So referential integrity constraint so specifies that what is present here should be present in the reference relation. Reference relation is the head table. So you can see that all these values are there in head table. If you look at the head table, these values, CEE is in head table, EIE is in head table. None of the values in here are not there, which are not here. All the values which are here is in head table's department ID. So this is the primary key of the head table. It is referenced from this one as a foreign key. So if we try to, so I'll use this insert to demonstrate this referential integrity constraint violation. So if we try to insert into this table, I'll use the arrow keys and navigate, insert into S, employee table, and I am going to insert in here for this foreign key a value which does not exist here. For example, something like any other name? Like ABC, and I'll set this one now to a correct value. So these things are okay. Employee ID, this one, designation, this one, age, this one is okay. But the fact is, this will violate the foreign key constraint because such a thing is not in the primary key of the reference relation. So we'll see whether this one will allow us to do that one or not. Yes, it says cannot add or update a child row. There is a foreign key constraint. It will fail if you insert like that. Right? So that's what will happen. So if we have not set this one, for example, on delete, set null, and on update cascade, if we assume that we have not given that, then we will not be allowed to delete any entry from the head table. Now we are able to delete an entry from head table. We are able to delete an entry from head table, and then if we delete, such values in the employee table will be set to null. If we update, those values will be deleted. But if we have not specified this one, then we will not be able to even delete content from the referenced relation. That means head table. We will not be able to remove either. So as CEE and EIE are there, we will not be able to remove or delete these things from this table unless we have specified like this one. SQL will not allow. Now it is okay because we have allowed it because on delete we are setting null or we do this one. So that's why I have given here in update and delete also referential integrity constraint can be violated. In delete, only the referential integrity constraint is violated because in delete these things cannot be violated because can never be violated because the data is deleted. Then if the data is deleted, there is no way of defining domain constraint or key constraint or null constraint because there is no data. If there is no data, these constraints will definitely not be violated. But when we delete data from a reference relation in update and delete operations, the referential integrity constraint can be violated unless we have specified like this. So we will see whether this is true. We will try to delete. So now there is EIE here. So what if we delete? If we delete EIE from this table, these values should be null. We will check that one. Okay, we will go to delete from head where department ID is equal to EIE. Department ID is equal to EIE. Then this row will be deleted. It was deleted. If you now visualize this one, EIE is not there. Now we will see the employee table. Now you can see, as just I explained you a moment ago. Now, as this has a foreign key constraint, on delete, these things, as EIE was deleted, these things have been set to null. Now we'll check the other constraint whether it on update whether it cascades, right? So we'll there is the CEE referencing this head table. We'll update the CEE to some another value. So we'll update head. We'll update this one head set department ID is equal to some another value. Like it should not be a duplicate, but we'll set it to EIE where department ID is equal to CE. Department ID equals CE is this row. In that row we make department ID, we change, update this one to EIE. Then there is a reference from this one to here. We have set this one to cascade. Okay. Now we will see the table employee. Right. So in that operation, you can see this has been updated also. If this is updated, this has been updated and other values are kept like that one. So that is the cascade operation. So when this value is updating, on update cascade means when the reference attribute is updating, the values in the reference relation will also be updated. When delete, so you can set this one to anything you want. You can set this one to cascade, or you can set this one to delete, or you can set this null. If you want, you can set to null like this, or you can set to the default value here. If you have specified a default value for department ID, then you can set to that value. Cascade means if that is changed, so it was changed from CEE to EIE, then this value will also be changed from CEE to EIE. That is the meaning of cascade. Right. So that is how the referential integrity constraint violation was prevented. This is how we prevent it. This is how we prevent it. Unless we have defined this kind of thing, delete and update will try to violate the referential integrity constraint. But as you could observe, as all of these are schema-based constraints, the SQL does not allow those things to be valid. There is some mechanism to prevent those things. But what about the other constraints that we learned last week? Those are the data constraints such as functional dependencies, transitive dependencies, multi-value dependencies. So those things can exist in a table, and those are not defined in SQL. SQL does not know anything about the data dependencies, but those data dependencies can be violated in all of these operations. So if such data dependency constraint is violated, or any other constraint is violated, we call that it as an anomaly. Anomaly. That means it is not the normal way of occurring of data. So we call it as a data anomaly. If the data constraints or any other schema-based constraint is violated, so it will cause a data anomaly. So as I have given here, there is no way to prevent data anomalies in SQL. The way of preventing data anomaly is using the concept of normalization. So for example, I'll say if there is a transitive dependency, if there is a transitive dependency here, I can observe a transitive dependency here. For example, specialization and department ID. Specialization and department ID. So the specialization has a functional dependency to department ID, because software will always should map to EIE. Software should always map to EI. As you can definitely see from this one, you can see communication department ID is null. Software department ID is null. So the functional dependency, which should exist in reality, is not exist here, because software people are only in electrical department. Communication people are only in electrical department. So there is a functional dependency from here to here. So there is a functional dependency from here to here, and from here to here, there is a functional dependency from here to here. So there is in full, there is a transitive dependency from employee ID to this one. And that is violated. You can clearly see it is violated here. But SQL has not caught it. It does not know whether there is a relationship between this column and this column. It does not know. So in order to prevent this kind of anomaly or data constraint violation, or functional dependency violation, transitive dependency violation, so the data should be normalized. That's why, so what we are doing is, if there is a dependency from this one to this one, then we should include those dependencies in a different table. That means we will break this from this table and take it into a different table, and we will make this one as the primary key, so that software will always have EI in that table. So if there is a transitive dependency, we break this one and bring to another table and make this one primary key. Then that primary key will not, that constraint will not be violated, because it is an entity integrity constraint. Then what is actually done in normalization is, the data dependencies are converted into schema-based constraints, because schema-based constraints are the ones which are captured by database management systems. Data constraints are not captured, right? So if there are data constraints, they should be converted into schema-based constraints. That means if there is a functional dependency, that should be a full functional dependency. It should not be a partial functional dependency. Transitive functional dependencies cannot exist. If exist, they should be brought to some other table and declared as a schema-based constraint. That means convert the data dependency into a schema-based dependency. That is the simple idea of normalizations, because of the fact that this kind of data anomalies can occur by violating the data dependencies. And the other motivation for normalization is the repetition of data, right? So the first thing, normalization motivation is to, as I have described before, it is to reduce these insert, update, deletion anomalies. That means the constraint violations, either data or schema based. Schema based is not allowed because of SQL or database management system, but especially data constraint violations, to reduce such violations, normalization should be done. And the other thing is to reduce the repetition of data, right? Repetition of data. So this is what I have given here, data redundancy, because data is repeated. If you model the database as a single table, the whole database as a single table, then unnecessary data repetitions will be there. If you break into small tables, then data will not be repeated. So this repetition occurs if the database is not normalized. So I have given here an example. So there is a normal form known as Boyce-Codd normal form. We will learn that one in next week. So it does not allow multiple candidate keys, partial functional dependencies, transitive dependencies within a relation. So as I have shown you in the example of employee table, if there are transitive dependencies, their constraints could be violated. If there are multiple candidate keys, right, there could be data constraint violations. So this is a higher order normal form. So it does not allow any of this. So the chance for data anomaly occurrence is less, right? So even if an anomaly occurs due to referential integrity, so referential integrity in this case, data anomalies could occur. So this is an anomaly caused due to referential integrity. What is the anomaly? So I change this one's department ID in the head table to from CEE to EIE, then this one also change to EIE. But this data is not valid here. This data is not valid because the employee ID is CE, that is employee ID belongs to civil department, but the department ID belongs to electrical department. So this data is not valid. So this is an anomaly caused due to referential integrity. So that means this whole tuple is not valid data. This whole tuple is not valid data. But if we have broken this one into a small table, then only, for example, say there was a table from these 3 columns, then only those things will be affected. So in normalization, even if there is an anomaly, even if there is an anomaly caused, that's what I have explained here. Even if there is an anomaly has occurred due to referential integrity, that like that one, only few data is affected as it is divided into different tables. So this is the aim of normalization. First, to reduce data anomaly, that means data constraint violations especially, and to reduce the repetition of data. So the other way of interpreting normalization is it is the goodness of design. The higher the order of normalization, it is the database we say that good because it has less repetition of data and less amount of data anomalies, right? And a normal form should have different conditions. So there are several normal forms as first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, Boyce-Codd normal form, and fourth normal form. We will discuss up to fourth normal form, and each normal form has different conditions to satisfy to become in that normal form. Unless those conditions are satisfied, that table or that database will not be in that normal form, right? So we'll stop for the today at this place. So I'll upload these videos to the LMS. You can refer these things later. So we will continue with normalization next week, right? Okay, so if you have don't have anything to ask, then you can leave.